Okay, good evening, and thank you for all joining us for the November Successful Gardener class. This is our last class of 2022. We are recording, even though it was really difficult to get that started, we are doing it. So mute your line during the presentation. That'll help keep things quieter. My name's Christina Culp, and I'm one of the Union County Master Gardeners. And we host this series at 7 o'clock on the first Thursday of every month except December. So you have a month off coming up. And we will post our 2023 Successful Gardener calendar very soon. So you'll need to stay in touch on our website. And I'm going to put the link for that in the chat room as soon as I get done here. So you'll all have that, and you can just check back there every once in a while, and we will get it put up in the next month or so. Our website is full of a lot of great info. Information about our programs, upcoming events, gardening information, and especially important info about becoming a master gardener, because we would love to have you join us if you aren't already a master gardener. And you do not have to be an expert to start the training. I will also post the information, the URL for that as well. We're just now ending the 2022 class, and so it's a great time to check in on the 2023 class schedule. Like I said, I'll put those links in the chat box. Tonight we have Jason Loeske, owner of Garden Growers, and he's here to talk about fall and winter garden cleanup. I have to admit, usually I am really looking forward to this time of year because I'm tired, and I'm just tired of gardening and cleaning up and weeding and all this stuff. But this is the first year I'm kind of not really looking forward to it. I'm kind of like sad that all my little animals are leaving and all the bees are going to sleep, and they seem to be falling asleep inside of whatever plant they can find that's still got some pollen in it. But anyway, it's going to happen whether I like it or not. Most of you have probably met Jason before, either through the Master Gardener program, or even he may actually work in your yard if you're very, very fortunate. He's also a returning speaker. He did a class on erosion control last February, as a matter of fact, and that was very well attended and very much appreciated, because I think most people in Union County have that problem, and maybe everywhere.
Right. It's still.
Still, yeah.
Mm.
That's something you work on forever. Um,
Right.
Based on today's weather, you might not realize that it is in fact fall. So you have to check your leaves, and then you'll know, because I have like a ton of those already, and they're only not even half done. But we've had beautiful weather so far, just almost a little warm. But we're still moving into the cold weather. One day we'll get a frost and all that stuff, and then it'll be time to really clean up. And so Jason's going to talk to us about some options for cleanup, just the regular kind of stuff, but also to talk about that some of our cleanup doesn't need to happen just now, and we don't need to be quite so maniacal about it. So that maybe we can all just sit back and relax a little bit more than we thought. But
Right.
also maybe we'll talk about some things, some projects that we can do in the winter. I know for me, I can finally see some of the paths that I thought I had built last year, and they just got so overgrown I couldn't even see them anymore. So I can see the garden kind of structure again. And so we'll talk about some of those things too. Please add your questions to the chat box as we go along, and then I'll go back over those as once Jason's done talking. And we'll also post this recorded program on our YouTube channel, and I'll make sure that link is out on our website. So I guess, Jason, the question is, rake or not to rake?
Well, it depends, right?
Yeah, it
It
does.
depends. Yep. Yep. So we want to, of course, thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me. Union County Master Gardeners again, the Extension Agency, and everyone for joining. Thank you. Um, uh, I think, yes, we have to rake. We have to rake. I'm using a blower. I'm not raking anymore. I'm not gonna lie. Days gone by where the blower is the king nowadays, especially a high-powered black backpack blower, um, is what I'm using. Of course, you know, whatever you use doesn't matter, just to get the job done. And that that yes, I would say in the lawn situation, the leaves have to be removed. If you're trying to grow grass, you have to remove the leaves. Uh, you're having to, leaves compact, they get rained on, they get stepped on. and they're forming a mat, they're going to kill grass, especially fescue. They'll kill Bermuda in patches as well, over the winter, and then it's unsightly as well. I think a lot of us have an HOA and have some additional, uh, structure that we have to abide to. So yeah, getting it off the lawn is great. I recommend always having a natural place for the leaves to go to, and a natural bed, that's left in leaves. You're mulching in leaves. Um, Hopefully, we're not. Well, by using the leaves, we're discouraging weeds, the vines, the saplings aren't going to grow if you have a foot deep of fresh fall leaves. By a month from now, they'll be a few inches deep from the rain compacting them. Um, I had a question that, don't the leaves just blow back on? They're just going to blow right back on my lawn. By the time you're done blowing all the leaves into the woods or into that natural area, over the next several weeks, 2 months, let's be honest, oak trees go until January sometimes, um, losing their leaves. That we're going to be, in North Carolina and the Piedmont, we're dealing with leaves until December, January, Christmas time. Uh, by the time you're done doing that, the rain has settled those leaves. They've locked together and they're not really moving around too much, in my opinion. If you want to go to the next level is to shred the leaves to to reduce their size through, a lawnmower, a shredder, a chipper, whatever, and then that has less tendency to blow around as well. It becomes more of a mulch. Um, One thing we do in a lot of neighborhoods is, especially these yards that butt up to the woods, or perhaps they have that natural area, but then they have the formal lawn and garden and landscape as well, that we do whatever you want. It could be a 3 foot wide strip of mulch, or it could be 10, 20 foot wide, depending on the area and your planting situation. So that band of mulch is kept clean, as well as the lawn, and then beyond that are the leaves. So some of us with acreage, or even, shoot, you don't have to have multiple acres. You could have 1 acre, you could have half an acre, and that's a lot of land to have to maintain in lawn, landscape, mulch, um, gravel, patio. That's a lot of space to maintain, and keep pristine. So I always recommend that you have an area where those leaves, the fall leaves, your neighbor's leaves, your leaves, who's ever, can go to a certain space and be dealt with on your property. Much like we've talked before about our water, I don't want to give my problem, my yard, my landscape's problem, whether it's leaves, runoff, um, drainage, whatever, to the next guy. I want to take care of it on my property. So having that space where the leaves can go. I love that bed in the back corner that has some trees around it, some deciduous trees, maybe a few pine trees, cedar. Uh, Depending on the exposure, would be wonderful for growing azaleas, camellias, um, ferns, depending on the shade level. I love a shade garden. If it's a shade garden, boy, you are in luck. That is a wonderful, beautiful, easy to maintain space. Even with tree competition, tree root competition, things like Lenten rose. Uh, what's the other one that we just, ajuga, that can handle dry shade. Other things, once they're established, can also handle that. Camellias, ferns can handle that sort of drier competition with the tree roots. Um, I love hydrangeas in that situation. They're just high water consumers. So you deal with tree root competition and other competition, and also the rainwater situation, rain being blocked by the tree canopy. You have to you have to monitor how much is coming in, uh, how much is landing on the ground, not just what's on the uh, weather guide. Okay, so that was long. That was a long chat
About raking or not.
about raking, right? Sorry, I'm gonna try to share my slide. So I hope everyone can see it. This
Yes.
is my impromptu presentation. It's very high tech, uh, but hopefully enjoyable with the photos and whatnot. Uh, this is a great example of a property, a very formal property, very, you know, um, lots of land. You can see from the right side over here, it goes and goes. But there's a strip of grass. There's areas of lawn. There's areas certainly in the front of the home. You see formal mulched. Those were cleaned of the leaves, and the leaves were pushed out to the to the edges, to around the pond or the far side of the pond, under the trees, under the pine trees. Pine trees are great because they're always shedding their needles.
Mhm.
Dang it. So you might as well just send all the stuff under there because they're going to constantly be covering up any mulch or anything else you put down, no matter what. So I'm a big fan of leaving the leaves, just of course within reason. We're talking about winter projects. Um, just one of the first photos that came up in my search today was last. I think this was last winter. Maybe it was 2 winters ago. But uh, a good project is concrete. Hardscapes are great for the winter time, um, because we don't have to worry about plants. You're not worried about trimming, and even mowing is slowing down once we do deal with the leaves and the lawn here in the next month or so. Pretty much we're done mowing. So other projects that can be done. This project was they were driving all over the the lawn in this corner, and wanting to park over here. So instead of dealing with a mud pit, we just basically filled it with concrete. An easy job. This was uh, several hours of work, yes, but uh, just a few wheelbarrows mixed full of concrete and a little finish work. It's not complicated. It can be tedious. Of course, wintertime, amazing for shrubs, plants, trees. You guys, I cannot stress enough. I don't know how many of our attendees are new to the area. Um, a lot of northerners or even westerners think that we can't plant in the winter time here like there because the ground is frozen. That doesn't happen here. The ground doesn't freeze. Perhaps a few inches. The top inch might freeze in January. There's a couple of weeks typically where we might drop into the teens, and that's a concern. If the root itself of the plant, the container is frozen, that's a problem. Trying to plant that, rip it out of its container and put it in the ground, that's an issue. So that's a very small window in our winters. So winter, fall, like the screen says, September to March is the sweet spot. We can plant, gosh, you guys, end of August all the way through May. You're pretty safe, and even longer if you can water, if you have any idea how to water properly. And I stress that tremendously. Few people have any idea how to water properly. It's a knack. There's an intuition to it. I can't tell you how to water. It's not a schedule. It's based on your light, your sun, your plant, what you're growing. But gosh, it's a struggle to get people to water correctly. Um, you know, I love the crepe murder comment that people use. I love it. But you can see here on the left where it was done, what happened. On the right, that's what you do, and on the left is what it looks like. It's bizarre to me. It looks unusual. It looks foreign or fake. It doesn't work. It's no way to trim a tree, in my opinion. So yes, does it hurt the tree? No, no. The things that are hurting the tree, listen, let's talk about crepe myrtles for a second. And listen, crepe myrtles, roses are done in February. Okay. Here again, this is how you trim a crepe myrtle. Um, you're thinning it, you're removing the twigs, you're removing the crossing, the crowded branches, you're maintaining the structure. This is a young tree. It's going to be beautiful one day if it's pruned properly. You can see how knotty it is, how scraggly it is, and you can also maybe tell if you train your eye, you can see how it was murdered at one point. It was cut right here. If you can see my cursor. I hope that you can, but you can see how it was, so-called murdered or just topped tree. What do they call it? Top hatting, topping, uh, trying to control the canopy size. If you're trying to control the canopy of a tree, you're growing the wrong tree. Grow a different tree if you're trying to control the canopy. The canopy is the tree. That's the entire essence of the tree. So uh, I can understand when it has to be done because you love the tree and it was planted wrong. Your builder planted it, the previous owner planted it happens. My uncle planted like whatever, and you love the thing, then trim it properly and maintain it properly. That's fine. I understand that situation. That happens all the time. As far as like, I just like them, but I hate that it's too close to my driveway, so I'm going to plant 30 of them and not want them to get big. Well, do something different. There's plenty of options in our area, but uh, back to the issues with crepe myrtle scale, the aphids, um, the mites are significantly affecting crepe myrtles in our area. You drive down the street of your neighborhood, maybe look in your own yard, and they have black bark and black twigs and black leaves, and the plants underneath them have a black coating on them. That's all sooty mold. Any of you master gardeners have probably learned in master gardener training in the course about sooty mold, listed as one of the issues that we get on plants. The only time you see it is when the secretions from the aphids and the mites and scale are falling on the leaves. It's a sugary substance, and then that forms the mold. The sooty mold is a sign, it's a symptom. The problem is the aphids and the mites and the scale. Easy to deal with organically, preventatively, ahead of time before it's an issue, and also during and afterwards as well. So neem oil, horticultural oil, dormant oil, that's all the same thing essentially. Um, some are mineral oils, some are the actual plant neem, uh, uh, and some are listed or organic, and some are not, but very low toxicity is the point. And a preventative, like quarterly type spraying of the trees and the surrounding area, sort of also excellent for your camellias, your azaleas that are being decimated lately. Like all I see are azaleas being just just a travesty of a plant because of the lace bug and the mites and the aphids and the scale. And you flip over any leaf and you see all this stuff underneath the leaf, the furry stuff. It's the exoskeletons and the I don't know what all is in there. I think I've seen the spider mite, the webbing sort of from spider mites. All sorts of stuff can be easily handled with sort of a regular application of dormant oil, neem oil, horticultural oil. Again, put it in a pump sprayer, buy the concentrate. Always buy the concentrate is my suggestion. You get yourself one of those pump sprayers, and and you keep it clean and empty and stored, and it'll last you for probably a lifetime if you do that. And you can mix up your chemicals the way that it says on the label, the way that it's supposed to for this or that. Certain things require more, certain things don't. Uh, uh, so it allows you customization. When you're buying that stuff that's in the container, listen, for starters, it's got to be the lowest concentration they can give you by law, probably, because they're only looking to make money. That's their only process. Second of all, those things are loaded with battery things and the handles, the just the fact that you're buying this giant piece of plastic and I think you have to throw it away because it's full of chemicals. I don't even think you can recycle it. Whether you can or can't, you're just buying that thing for one-time use. Buy the concentrate, it saves you a ton of money. You're putting in it what you know is in it, and then and also I'm finding a lot of times with that stuff, if you don't shake it, if you're not if it's sitting on there on the counter for a while and you don't shake it and agitate it and mix it up, you're using either the all the chemical all at once or you're using it all at the end. um, and then it's all screwed up too. You're like, why isn't it working? Or it worked before and now it's not working. Well, I can only tell you what I do, and I don't have that problem. So I'm speculating there. But anyway, back to the point is the winter issues in our landscape that I see vastly not dealt with, and then the repercussions are seen in the landscape, and that's the deteriorating crepe myrtles. Their health you can see, you guys, when you see these trees that are black with the black bark, and I swear you can see them from the street. You can see them from a mile away practically. They're just covered in the black stuff on their bark and the twigs and stuff. And you'll notice that those trees that are always like that, not just the baby ones, obviously they're struggling, but the older, more mature trees, they'll be sparse, less leaves, less flowers, um, weird growth, uh, and all stuff that can easily be maintained. Uh, the azaleas is the other thing, man. It's just a crime how troublesome of a plant they are and how easy it is to fix it, sort of. But you do have to be on it. You have to spray them regularly because those lace bugs and stuff are faster than we are, I think. A lot of the critters are. A lot of the pests and stuff are faster and more productive than we are. This is another just example of sort of a what not to do with the tree ring. This is not a winter project to do. This is a winter project to undo. So maybe that's the thing that you're looking at in your landscape, what needs to be dealt with. Also, you see the tree roots possibly on this tree. Um, uh, Not much can be done now for the tree roots. Adding a few inches of topsoil and redoing the lawn is an option. Will help. Those tree roots will continue to get bigger and probably show themselves down the road as erosion happens and as the tree roots get bigger. Yeah, they'll reappear. Um, the reason the roots are on the surface is poor watering when that tree was developing early in its life. It was probably planted and forgotten about. If there's any irrigation at all, it's on the lawn, and then people are watering for the top couple of inches of the lawn and not deep soaking a tree root system, especially when being developed. So in the first uh, 3 5 years of a tree being planted in your yard, you definitely want to be concerned with, not concerned, just monitor its water in a drought. Get out there and soak it once a week, once every 2 weeks, soak the heck out of it. One way to do that is a sprinkler set low, and just sort of trickling around. I'm making a lot of hand motions, you guys. I'm sorry you can't see all my hand motions. I'm totally animated over here, but you see my slideshow. Uh, you know, 5 gallon buckets work well. The point is you want it to soak into the ground, not just run off of it. and you're not trying to like a lawn sprinkler would just would just dampen the top few inches at the most of the lawn. You're talking about trying to get it down to where you planted it. Imagine, I show people when I'm installing plants, do you see their root that I'm bringing to you? It's in a container that's a foot and a half tall and a foot and a half wide. That's its root, and I'm sticking that in a hole in the ground. That's where the water needs to go. It needs to go a foot and a half deep. So imagine getting the water a foot and a half deep on your rock hard clay lawn. Not an easy thing to do. Hopefully the hole was prepared properly, and there's a place for that water to go. Um, uh, but the slow soaking of the roots in the first couple of years, um, mentioned watering. In this case, we're talking about watering it uh, uh, in its first season of planting. You're watering it every maybe twice a week, once a week, twice a week. You're watering it deeply. That's in its first season. If it's in the summer, you need to be way on top of it and not flooding it, and yet making sure that it doesn't dry out. If hopefully you plant it this time of year, it's much easier. The tree is dormant, the plant is dormant, they're only growing roots, they're not growing top, they're not having to maintain a top growth or a bloom, they're only growing their base. That's why we plant things now. It's so that they can grow their roots and establish a root system in order to support the top growth. The Where was I? So we're watering initially. We're watering once a week, a couple of times a week. After that, we're only watering in basically during the summer once a week, and in droughts type, once or twice a week. For most all plants, we're talking about hydrangeas, azaleas, shallow root systems. They need a little bit more often. That's where a lawn sprinkler does, or a soaker hose does work, and comes in handy. Um, Most people, in my experience with the soil that we have here, overwater their plants when we first install them, um, and oh, yeah. So you see the mulch also piled high against the tree trunk. We never want the mulch piled against the tree trunk. We literally want zero mulch against the trunk itself. It should be 3 inches out here, a foot or two away from the trunk, but at the trunk it should be 0 inches, almost forming a donut effect or a dinner plate effect around the tree trunk. You should see a trunk flare, or excuse me, is it called a root flare? It's called the root flare, isn't it? That's the where it flares out from the trunk as it meets the ground, and you also see that on branches, a branch collar. Um, I think that they may also call that a flare. There's a piece of the plant. I'm going back to botany. I'm missing out on a couple of years of botany back in the day. Um, Moving on, form and function, you guys. Great projects are burying the downspouts. Easy to do, especially in this case. It's right here next to the driveway. It was running through the garden bed, or the mulched bed as it was, to the driveway. So we just buried it, and then they were running over this section of the driveway. The driveway right here is to the left, front sidewalk to the right. They were running over this section when they were parking and coming in and out. So we set back the drain pop up, but set up the rocks where they can drive on it, and the drainage happens, and everybody's hunky dory. Husband's happy, wife's happy, and there's flowers and herbs and things. There's lavender and rosemary in there. Um, Things for the pollinators. There's a hydrangea back in the back. So great. This is a great, little project to edge the beds. Also, how many of us have the issue of the bed sort of washing into the front walk? Why is it washing into the front walk? It's always water. The birds, the squirrels, the leaf blower, and water. Those are the only things that are moving mulch. Unless it's, yeah, I mean, that's the only thing moving mulch. People say, isn't the mulch going to end up all over the place? Well, no. What's moving the mulch? It's kids' feet, dogs' feet, leaf blowers, lawn mowers, and water is pretty much it. The squirrels and the birds that peck at the stuff in there and scatter it around. Um, so the edging helps, yeah, but still, is there going to be mulch on the sidewalk? Sure. I'm not going to guarantee there's no mulch on the sidewalk. That's crazy. But the edging does help. I like the stone. I really like the stone look in yards. In here, this is a pool deck. So we all have the erosion issue at the pool, the spill off of the chlorine and the salt water, and then it kills the beds and the plants are dead. Let me just see if this, yeah. So uh, under here was a drain, a perforated pipe to and lined with plastic, so that the water, at least, I can't control all of it, but at least the initial splash and trickle or whatever and runoff of water that's contaminated and maybe just a flood as well, maybe too much water. Will hopefully go into the stone and the perforated pipe. So this is expensive decorative stone on top. That's about 2 inches of decorative stone, which is expensive. This is steel edging, also expensive. But underneath it is very inexpensive drainage gravel and the perforated pipe that hopefully goes downhill to a spillway where it can go. We call it daylighting, wherever it comes out to nature to become groundwater again, right? Um, I do say hopefully downhill, because you would be amazed how many systems or how many jobs I go to that we have to find a drain that was installed going uphill, and why it's a problem 5 years from now or 3 years from now or 10 years from now. Nobody really understands, but going uphill certainly doesn't help. Um, we're going to talk about pathways and stuff. This is this is the essence of any path, patio, uh, where you want to put your garbage cans. If you wanted to do a driveway, absolutely, you would need a whole bunch of base underneath the driveway, done really, really well, really compacted, but it'll work. And that's how this is done. No matter the application, whether it's Grand Central Station or your backyard, and you have a pile of flagstone, and a lot of people have this pile of material that you don't know what to do with, or you've been meaning to use, and scrap material, whatever, as a paver base, or excuse me, not a base, but a pavers or flagstone. This is how you do it. You have to excavate. You have to go down. So you have to go down, and I never want to dig. I always tell my guys, listen, we're not digging more than we have to here. So only go down as far as you need to go down. That's about 3 inches of compacted base, about 1 inch of sand or screenings. We'll talk about that, and then the size of your paver or your flagstone. Most things are about 2 inches. So we got 2 inches of paver, an inch of sand. That's three, and 3 inches of base. That's 6 inches. You got to go down. Now, you can dig that out and you can guesstimate and you can use a level and a line and all those things, and that's great, and get an idea of where 6 inches is. But when it comes down to it, when you build that back up, you're making sure that you're building it back up to the appropriate height. So when that base is compacted and the sand is added, or the screenings, excuse me, and then the pavers are done, let's say they're 2.25 inches, not 2 inches. When you're butting up to a sidewalk or a back door, those are concerns, and that's where we need to be careful. The rest of the time, we're just looking at level and making sure that that bubble on the level is going downhill so that any rainwater that does hit it doesn't rush back into the house. So it's going away from the house. It's going away from the foundation or down the sidewalk the way we want it to go. So, washed screenings is the number one thing that, not, excuse me, it's not number one thing. It's an important thing that I've learned that I like using the screenings more than the sand. They're easier to use to me. They spread easier. They compact easier. They're heavier. And wash screenings, essentially, if you don't know, it's like dust. It's the granite dust. So you have um, everyone's familiar with driveway gravel, uh, the gray gravel. So that stuff comes in the stuff that they put in the ditches, that it's like 8 inch long, 8 inch big rocks, 10 inch, 20 inch big rocks that are in the ditches on the highway. And that's all the way down to your drainage rock and your railroad rock and your driveway stone and your wash screenings. It's all part of the process. The wash screenings is like the dust, and it's angular and it locks together and it forms a really good base and it's really easy to smooth. The gravel base, the base underneath that that you start with is that ABC, also called crush and run. It's you're going to lay down probably up to maybe 5 inches, and you can compact that down to about 3. So 5 inches of that spread in with a wheelbarrow can become like 3.5 or so, somewhere in there. 4 inches becomes about 3 inches um, when you compact it. That gets compacted with a tamper or a rented machine or a bought, a machine. Um, and then the screenings. I don't use an inch of screenings. I hate using an inch. I literally want like a quarter of an inch of screenings. Maybe it's up to a half of an inch or so is what I go for. But you can use, they say up to an inch. It allows you to float stuff so that, like I said, when you hit the sidewalk, you have that variance. If you hit a high spot in your stone or a low spot in your in your base, you can throw in a little bit extra. Here's a project. You can see the screen. This is the ABC that's been put in. Um, uh, I learned a trick where you put the ABC in first, and then as you do all your other work, you're actually compacting the ABC as you work, so you don't really have to compact it very much when you're ready to go. So you're walking on it, wheelbarrows, tools, um, a couple, a few days or whatever of compacting that stuff with feet and manpower goes a long way, and then you use the screenings. This was flagstone. You can see at the bottom how it's you come in with that dark colored, that's that screenings that are laid down in sort of a layer, and flagstone's irregular. This is another way that pavers are very uniform. So the secret there is you get a uniform base and a uniform level of screenings. You got a uniform paver base or pavers going down on top. With flagstone, they're irregular. They're all different. They might have knots in them. They might have little imperfections. So you're having to work that 1 inch of screenings might be an inch and a half at one spot, and it could be almost zero at another spot. So that's why I like using it. Again, steel edging comes in to delineate the spaces and also separate them. All this stuff that came out of here, out of the pathway, went into the beds to build them up. And then you see sort of a finished product over here on the right, far right side or right, upper right side. Give me a thumbs up that we're good on time.
We are.
Awesome.
We do have some questions though, so you can leave a little time for that.
Sweet. Well, we got some more, just steel edging, flagstone. Um, uh, just a concept of these narrow spaces. So many houses now have these narrow side yards, narrow spaces in their landscape, and it's hard to deal with. They're often wet. This is a way to sort of raise it, bring it up a little bit. Uh, allow for some drainage off to the fence line, the property line, and then allow for some planting beds. Uh, Same concept, you guys. This is with Lowe's. These are Lowe's pavers or Lowe's stepping stones. They're the irregular ones, and this is some I think 1 to 3 inch stone from Site One, steel edging. Some plants according to the sunlight, and this is a beautiful side yard. I love this yard still. It's been about 2 years. I still love this yard. Some hydrangeas. I think I use paniculata hydrangeas because it does get hit with a bit of sun, but it's not a lot. So I didn't want to burn up old macrophilia type hydrangeas. So I used some paniculatas, I believe, some grasses, which tend to flop in this situation. So that's telling me that they don't have enough sun. And then things like the ferns and the azaleas and these are astilbes, I think, astilbes that do terrific in this situation. The deer don't touch anything except for those darn hydrangeas, and they walk right down here. You'll see deer footprints right down here if you can see my cursor. It's crazy. This is the other house is right here. This is 10 feet. I believe this is 10 feet between the two houses, and the deer walk right here and they'll nibble on things, and the only thing they touch is a little bit of the hydrangea. Um, Driveway widening, big time. I love this idea for anybody's house. I'm not trying to sell you on anything, I swear. Like, I don't want anything to do with these jobs, but literally the 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 driveways are so dang tight, and people are just stepping out into the lawn in the mud. um, it's a great place to widen, and you could do flagstone, you can do pavers. Over here, it's the same project. And then down here in this corner, I wanted to show this photo because this is a downspout right here, and this is downhill into the driveway. So again, getting that water out of the mulch and onto the pavement into the lawn, away from the plants essentially, and dealt with, effectively and cleanly, and then pretty as well. When this was done, obviously, I don't know. It's not great now, but it was pretty when we were done. Um, Same thing, same concept. Base material, uh, you know, ends up with a good result. You don't put the base material, this thing will be sagging in a couple of years. It'll be washed out maybe. I think you'll notice it. I think the base material gives it longevity, as well as it really simplifies it. It does add a step at the beginning, but it simplifies it through the rest of it because you take away the variability of it. You take away the ground variance. Um, you just have a nice solid surface that you can use in that sand or the wash screenings, and they both are good. Don't get me wrong about sand; they're fine. Don't use play sand that's round. You want to use stuff that's angular. It locks together. That's the whole point of base material. Um, this is my front yard a few years ago. Another good, just simple project, removing some sod. Uh, a lot of crabgrass is all it was. I had an existing bed. I wanted to make it bigger. This bed has since grown probably 3 times again in size. But a load of compost. This came from Compost Central from Mecklenburg County. That's like the compost that they produce. Um, we also get leaf mold sometimes. We can get leaf mold, which is just piled up leaves. Get that from Privet Industries in Monroe. The town of Waxhaw is willing to give it away, I believe, if you call and ask for it. So a great material, not something you're going to throw out and pile up 4 inches thick and plant in it. Don't do that. I mean, maybe you can. Maybe some plants will work. Mixing it in would be fine. But I like just to, cardboard, compost, and some mulch. The mulch went down after this, and then it sat for until spring. This was in, I think this photo, a lot of these photos were from the winter. So I believe this was like a February project, and then I probably planted it in like May or June probably. Another fun winter activity for me is plant shopping, idea shopping. This is Roundtree up in Charlotte on I think is it Old Pineville? I think it is. It's like in South End area. Old, tiny, awesome, family-owned nursery. They're moving, I hear. They're moving to Union County. So I believe like Fairview area, if I remember right. We know Latham's is out in Unionville. They've gone wholesale, so not really a place you'd go out and go shopping. But these other, King's Nursery, love going there any time of year, but especially in the off season. One, it's empty. They're thrilled to help you and have you there. They're thrilled to see you. You don't have to buy anything, but gosh, if you do, great. But the point is um, that you go in there, you get your pansies maybe, and you're shopping for the shrubs that you're going to plant in that bed that you just built. Um, and maybe it's the time to do it and maybe it's not, but a great activity any time of year when you're looking for something to to bide your time and say, no, hubby, I got to go do something else. I'm gonna go to the plant nursery. So you said we got some questions.
Yeah. So I think if you go back to the picture of the sad little tree with the ring around it, or just
Oh,
you don't have to go back to it. We won't forget what it looked
yeah,
like.
I can.
Yeah. The question was, could you put rocks around that to keep the mulch 3 inches away? Does that help, or is that its
Hmm.
own set of problems?
So to keep the mulch away from the tree trunk.
Yeah.
No, I would just rake it away from the tree trunk is all I would do. I would just keep it away from there. I wouldn't add any more materials. And in this case, this tree ring is just, first of all, it's way too small.
Right.
Um, Look at where the roots are. I mean, you're silly to put the tree ring that close, right? I mean, as far as like if you're talking about now the tree ring is important. We want to keep the equipment, the string trimmer, the lawnmower away from the trunk. So the ring is important to me. I like mulch, just plain mulch with the lawn leading right up to it, and I use my string trimmer and cut the edge and keep the grass and weeds out of the mulch. Um, you could use stone, definitely the rocks. I love any stone work whatsoever. If you want to use block, okay. I'm not a fan, but okay. That's what these are. These are from a hardware store, a big box store. Um, uh, and then the steel edging, of course, that I showed is a great option as well. All those things, the block and the steel edging are rigid and want to be sort of level, right? So when you run into things like these roots or a tree that's maybe on a slope, this one looks like it might be on just a slight slope, can become an issue when you're trying to get that stuff level and accurate and look good uh, over time. Also, you can see clearly that the tree is moving these blocks around.
Yeah.
Uh, the tree is definitely doing something to these blocks. That was not, I mean, yes, they probably weren't installed great, but you know, the tree, the trunk, the roots are all moving this stuff. Imagine if you concreted it and people that are paying really big money in these newer neighborhoods and in any neighborhood, but these newer places where they're coming in and they, somebody quotes them to do the edging around all the trees and the beds, and it's all concrete type work. And it's like this, what's going to happen in 5 years, 10 years? That joker is going to be broken all to heck. Um,
And or your tree's going to be dead.
and the tree is going to suffer as well. That mulch against the tree is rotting the bark on the tree. That bark is not supposed to be covered like that. So it's not built to be um, uh, for that to be done to it, and therefore it decomposes. The bugs get into it, the moisture's in it, and then that's crippling your tree from the very base of it. Uh, you know, any of these things that I've shown you, the crepe myrtles, um, the tree rings, do any of those things, are they going to kill the tree? No, no. By themselves, all alone, is that tree going to live? 30 years, 50 years? Absolutely, it's quite possible. Is it going to deteriorate the health of that tree if it becomes stressed due to weather, due to aphids, due to scale, due to water in this situation of this tree? Those are the situations that are going to, the compounding is where we're going to lose trees from. It's did that kill my tree? No, that did not kill the tree. That and these six other things usually is what kills the plant or the tree. Um,
So do you
um,
feel like for the tree, it's
I would
better to
rake.
just
I would get rid of the block. I would probably go one layer with the block
yep.
and use these blocks. Probably I would just make the circle double the size, double the circumference,
That's what I
and
was
then
just
rake
gonna
all that
ask.
mulch away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've always heard that like whatever the drip line of the tree is, so the however far out the leaves go, that's how much
Oh
mulch you
gosh,
need.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
drip line would be out on the driveway.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that would be a problem. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
certainly bigger than this.
So to your point, are you going to make it big enough? No. How big should you make it? As big as you can.
That maybe
As
that's the
as
better
big as you
answer.
can.
Yeah. As big as you
Yeah,
can. Yeah.
I hate trees growing in lawns. I really
Yeah.
do. I think trees belong in like a big bed, you know. Here to the right. To the right is a your our sorry, our video thing was in our way. Yes, sorry. So this is a little holly tree right here in this. And these I didn't talk about this photo, but these are all like roses. So these roses in January are due to be cut back to about I call it a hand. Um, um, Roses, crepe myrtles should be cut to like this. They should be 3 to 5 fingers. A rose would be about like this. They would be about 3 to 5 inches long at the base. These are carpet roses, drift roses, common plant nowadays, and less susceptible to the dang rosette that everything else is getting. Well, at least the knockout roses are getting. It's being spread crazy. One way to avoid rosette, I think, is to cleanly and properly get rid of that material off of the rose each year and get rid of it. Very important point to the leaving the leaves. If you have disease prone plants, if you have pest prone plants, or you have a known problem, those leaves need to go away. They need to be trashed, burned, disposed of, not composted and not mulched into your property. Very important point about the leave the leaves is the problems that it could have. Um, I think you would know. Uh, uh, Personally, under crepe myrtles, um, all that debris would go away. All crepe myrtle debris goes away. Um, Roses, uh, uh, help me out with some of the others. That's maybe it. And then any other plant that you would know has an issue that you would dispose of those, of those leaves. Other than that, what I didn't touch on was the insects. Um, I was trying to show you guys. I come across some really great critters. And I wanted to show you, and they didn't save. I can't find it now. Hmm. So, anyway, the critters that are in that leaf litter, salamanders, the lizards, the
Turtles.
turtles. Is that what you said? Turtles?
Turtles. Yeah. I found turtles
Oh,
in there.
I love the turtles. Earlier this fall, there's like this box turtle just cruising across our backyard one day. Just just moseying across the backyard. And look out the window. He's in the middle of the yard, just walking. And you go back out to you go to look. Hey, everybody, come look at the turtle. He's gone.
Yeah.
Like
They
they're
move
fast.
faster than you think.
They're way faster than you think. It's crazy. And then like 3 days later, he's cruising back across the lawn. Yeah, great. I love turtles. But I found a really cool salamander. In fact, a trio of salamanders. that I found. In cleaning things up and disturbing their habitats, and you're like, oh no, snakes. Um, a lot of people ask me about snakes in my line of business. I do not um, I do not come across very many snakes in my work, which is shocking to me personally. But 90%, maybe even more percent of snakes that I do come across are the harmless little ring neck snakes, the brown DKs,
Mm-hmm.
um, the little like tiny garter snakes. Um, in fact, in like 12 years of professional work, I've come across one copperhead, and it was this year. So, and it was a juvenile, very easy to identify, very quick to identify, very quickly disposed of. Um, uh, and then the homeowner said that they saw like two more, I think, a couple weeks out, within a week or two after us. We probably disturbed
A
a nest
nest.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, like 95% of the snakes I see are the little tiny harmless. People call them, oh, it's a baby snake. Well, no, it's not. That's a full grown snake.
That's as big as that guy's going to get.
It's just tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But they're, I love them.
So we have another question. You're
Yep.
talking about blowing leaves, which I spent some time today doing the same thing. And this person said, okay, so if I blow the leaves away, how do I keep the mulch in
Yeah.
place?
Yeah, right. Well, um, it takes a knack. There's a little knack to it. You want to fluff the leaves a little bit. Doing it when it's dry, when the leaves are dry, is critical. I think that's like a big thing. And then the wind, of course, is the issue. But which way is the wind blowing?
No.
Dry leaves, I think, is way easier to move around, um, and not blow the mulch. And then we try to only clean up. There are people out there that are cleaning up their yards 2, 3 times a week this time of year. Um, those people are probably going to be missing some mulch. Um, I think if you were to do it once a week when it's dry, maybe every 10 days, because it gets to be annoying here in a couple of weeks, you're going to be done. So you wait a little bit longer. Those are people I think that are going to have a lot better luck. Um, uh, Also, in the mulch beds, I tread lightly. It's very hard to work around plants. I have a lot of plants in my front yard. I have a lot of plantings, a lot of things that are, like azaleas or pieris or whatever, that are sort of tight knit and can catch the leaves down at their base. Uh, uh, I'm going in there by hand and getting them dislodged like twice a year. Twice this fall I'll go in there and do that. um, and then also a leaf vacuum works really well for some people in those small, like in the nooks and crannies kind of thing, like in the beds. The leaf vacuum works really well to me.
That
uh,
sounds kind of cool. Yeah. I
yeah,
found too
yeah,
that mulch will kind of mat down once it's set for a little while, right? And then
it does.
it's
Yeah.
easier. But fresh mulch would be a problem with the leaves. I could get that.
Yeah, correct. And I would kind of be careful, but that's another thing. Like I think with experience, a lot of you have probably learned, I'm not doing mulch in the fall, because one, the leaves are falling,
Mm.
and I want it to set and get in place, so you do it before the fall, or you do it maybe after the fall, but not in the middle of the leaves. Because that can be a problem. Absolutely, fresh mulch is going to move a lot better and we're talking about shredded mulch typically. Pine needles. I'm sorry, y'all. You're on your own with pine needles. Yeah. I don't have any. I got no help for you if you got pine needles. But uh, I install very little pine needles. We remove more pine needles than we install,
Yeah.
because people switch to the shredded mulch, is almost the hardwood mulch that's shredded and locks together, is typically the number one mulch that we use. And then I see another question here.
Yeah. Speaking of pine needles.
about pine trees.
Yeah.
So my question would, I would question what kind of pine trees. That sounds fishy to me as far like pine trees. If they're longleaf pines, as far as I know, that's only beetles, and that's a problem. That's a real problem. And we should probably get a an extension agent over there to check that out, to be honest. Um, I doubt that. So are we talking about more like cedars, which would be my guess, or arborvitae? And cedars are going to be dying. Um, in the woods behind my house, a lot of cedars are dying, and I think it has to do with the age of the woods. And by the woods, I'm talking about like sort of the forest, the age of the forest. The old hardwoods are getting tall enough and big enough to probably shade out the cedars that were faster and maybe first to grow. So
Hmm.
the cedars took off first and were great trees, and now they're competing with too much shade, and they're dying off because of the shade. Also, cedar rust gets to them. Um,
But that's just normal
uh,
progression of you're fortunate enough to
of a
watch the forest
forest.
grow. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Well,
right. Of a forest. And I think that's what you want. You want the old growth,
right.
right? And to shade that and to lose the undergrowth.
Mhm.
You want an open forest down beneath. That's a sign of a wonderful woods that you have. Probably has a lot of like hickory and oak and things like that in it. Uh, what you call it? Poplar, tulip poplar, and things like that. Uh, uh, the other thing is the arborvitae. Arborvitae suffer from a multitude of pests, and it's I think it's shocking to a lot of people how many different things can affect them. But number one thing is like root rot, and the sort of base killing of the tree, whether it's too much water, too little, or the rot that's often caused by things piled up against the trunk. But they also get bagworms, and the bagworms will just decimate those trees, and if not treated, can will destroy them.
And I'm just
Another,
now sending our grow line email address, and
yeah,
if this person will send some photos of
yeah, I'd love
the
to,
bugs and the trees, and
yeah,
you can send as many photos as you want to, and send it to the UCMG website at gmail.com. And I'm trying to finish this and talk at the same time. So we have people, master gardeners, who answer emails all the time, every day, just like this. And they'll ask you some more questions, but the more photos you can send, the quicker they'll be able to help you. And sometimes, yeah, it does mean that they'll try to find somebody, an extension agent, to come and check out your trees. And sometimes they can tell exactly what's wrong from just a couple of photos. So by
yeah,
all
right,
means, use that. It's free.
right. Yeah, what kind of tree is, yeah,
Yeah.
is going to be the number one telltale thing, which will give us some ideas.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's true for any kind of gardening type question. I mean, anything.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you. Can you hear me?
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you. This is Yingwo. Yeah, I appreciate it. This is the first time. Actually, a couple of days ago, I stopped by the NC extension in the agriculture center and got a couple of business cards. I think I'm going to check. Because in my backyard, there's a lot of pine trees, and recently, very quickly, you see, one tree just kind of like the pine needles kind of getting kind of yellowish, brownish, and then quickly died. And I believe it's beetles, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I noticed another tree is kind of like going to the same kind of way. So I just want to, get some help. Yeah, you said
yeah,
it. I can send email and send photos and the information to this email address. That'd be great. Yeah, thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
and the
it's
extension
yeah,
guys,
great.
they have an urban forester on staff now. So he, unless it's really obvious what's wrong, then they'll probably get him involved too. So yeah, you've got the right crew to talk to and the right
And
email
great
address.
being proactive about it.
Yeah,
That's the way to save the trees.
absolutely. Save the other ones. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, appreciate it. Yes, it's like I have like chopped like 6 trees in the backyard this a few weeks ago. So I don't want to lose any more trees.
right, right.
Well,
Well,
what's
good luck.
convenient? what's good
Wishing you
is
the
that
best.
this is a good time to plant more trees. So if you want to add trees, this is a good time
True.
to do that.
Good. Oh,
true.
okay. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Good point.
Okay. Any more questions? Anyone? I really appreciate it. Jason, thanks for coming. We'll come up with something for you next year too.
Oh, great.
Another topic.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
everyone.
And we'll see you
Thank you,
next
everyone. Have a
year.
good one.
Stay
Thanks.
in touch. And we'll send out a new calendar soon. Thank you all.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.